Hi, I'm Anthony, and welcome to Anthony Plays Cities, my YouTube channel where I'm going to be featuring my vanilla console City Skylines 1 gameplay. And more importantly, welcome to Piney Pass, the first city that we're going to be featuring on this channel and hopefully building together. Now, I just mentioned that I'm a console player, and there's a huge lack of Cities 1 console gameplay out there in the YouTube space, and a lot of the audience plays on console, so hopefully I'll fill a really nice niche here. And I also think there's a lack of snowfall content out there, even though the assets with the snow are really beautiful when you do it right. So we're going to start with a snowy city. Like I said, the name of this city is Piney Pass. The population right now is about 7,000. I've given it a pretty good start, but I don't want to keep going until I get some input from this community that we're hopefully going to build together. I'm going to introduce you guys to the city today, show you a few things that I've built, ask for some input on how to make them better and what to name them, and then we'll see how the channel does. I'm really excited to get this going. Now, I don't have a fancy capture card or anything like that, so I'm just doing this with all of the built-in options for sharing video on the PlayStation 5 and editing this on an app on my phone. So hopefully it comes across all right. Now, let's take a look at Piney Pass. So here we have the aerial view of the city. We're playing on the Icy Islands map, if you want to play along at home. Although we've made some significant changes to the map, which I'll show you guys when we get to that part of the city. So over here is where the city first started. This is the original baked-in interchange that came with the map. And this is just some cemeteries and snow dumps that will move later. But as you come into town, you see this industrial district on your right. Usually I'm not a fan of the vanilla industrial assets from the zonable buildings, but here I don't think it looks too bad. The smokestacks against the mountains and the white from the snow just makes for a kinda nice aesthetic. So usually I get rid of the industry, but this I think is gonna stay. Our initial residential area consists of just vanilla housing and some pretty simple grids, but with room left in between for some paths. I really want this city to be walkable in the end, especially since it's going to feature a lot of trams that people are going to need to walk to. I've also marked them all historical, so they stay how they look now. And here in the center of this residential district, we were able to feature some of the park assets that come with Snowfall. There's several unique parks and unique buildings that come with Snowfall maps that you can't get otherwise, so we're going to feature them heavily in this build. Let's take a little stroll with the walk camera and get a look at things from the street level. I think that I've captured the vibes of suburbia decently enough here. Things feel spaced out sort of like the real world, not on top of each other like if you just do max zoning. I think that these vanilla assets at level 1 look really nice against the mountains, and overall I like this district. Now this district needs a name, so if anyone has any ideas, let me know. East of our Winter Parks district we have our elementary school, which I've lightly decorated with a parking lot, some paths, but I think we can do better there, so if anyone has suggestions there, let me know also. And north of this tram line, one of many, we have our high school, as well as our second little pocket of residential housing with the European suburbia themed house, just laid out a little differently. And cruising down this sort of main street that's starting to develop here, we have the bakery as we push into the first of our industries DLC areas, an ore industry, with our steel factory. I really like the factory assets. They're very, very large. They can be hard to make them blend in naturally, but I think that's a nice challenge in this game. I like to detail and decorate and make things look like they really exist. And the Industries DLC is fantastic for that. The ore industry here, we've been able to kind of use our landscaping tools to cut into the mountain a little bit. Speaking of landscaping, I definitely need to clean this factory up. But overall, I think that this gives a nice reason for this section of town to exist. As we come northeast of the highway, we can see this custom interchange that I built. I'm sorta happy with it, although that's one area I think I could improve at this game. And next to that is our natural disaster response area. We're playing with the Natural Disasters DLC on in this city, or at least we will be later, and so we're prepping for it ahead of time. And I think this is a nice central location for them to be able to access everybody, or at least everybody for now. And then pushing across there, we come to what I'm calling our old downtown. I used the Heart of Korea DLC pack here for the housing and was able to get it to pop up in some nice even zoning. It took a little bit of work and some specific zoning to get it like that, but it was worth it. And then pushing across here, we see one of the cooler features of this map. it comes with baked-in tram lines. You can't use them, but if you replace them with other tram lines, like I've done here, you can revive the old line. And one of the unique buildings for the Snowfall DLC requires 20 tram lines, so we're going to be aiming for that. It's the Santa Claus Workshop, and once we get there, we'll do something really special with that building. I call this the Old Downtown District, and that's because of this square right here. It's a pedestrian square that I've made using the Plazas and Promenades DLC, and it features a couple of unique buildings, the City Hall and the Clock Tower, as well as the library. I'm excited to continue detailing this, but it's something that I like to do in my builds is include unique buildings early, because if you don't, your land value won't go up, and you'll be stuck at level 3 or 4 buildings, or worst case scenario, your level 5 buildings will abandon, and nobody likes that. So unique buildings early in the build is key in my eyes. Down here we had an awkward block where terrain wouldn't allow us to continue our regular zoning pattern. So we've finished this section of town off with a little sidewalk cafe and the botanical garden, with some paths to connect it all. I think it makes a nice end cap to this neighborhood. And here I've shaved away a little bit of terrain to make some room for some more zoning in front of this mountain. I think this is important in console builds when you're limited to 9 or 25 tiles, especially if you're trying to put large things like airports or theme parks in. And over here, across the tram tracks again, we have our Airline Industries building. And this is one of my favorite assets in the whole game. It's just a really beautiful little building. It's more detailed than most of the rest of the assets, and I think it works really nice here with the old downtown as a backdrop against it. Of course, if we have an airline building, that means that we have an airport. So let's watch some planes as they land at Piney Pass International Airport. Or at least that's what I've been calling it, although I'd love a better name if the community has any suggestions. I really wanted this to be a nice build, so it's a little oversized and over-engineered for the size town that we have right now with only 7,000 population, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. I used the classic airport terminal, which I think fits better here in the snow map than it fits in most other maps, and I used the 2-story terminal. I did some extensive terrain work across the front of the airport, including putting some keys on land here, which ordinarily you can't do in Vanilla City Skylines, but there's a way around it. I'll do a tutorial video on that later. It's tricky, but I think it's super worth it, because it gives us a clean look with the different layers of terrain that we're kind of forced to have here, since airports have to be level. And this is where a little one-way system starts. Cuts in front of the airport bus station, and then splits off for departures and arrivals before coupling back up at the same collector that kind of feeds into the airport in the first place. We have 2 runways in our airport, and it's split off between passenger and cargo. It's the passenger side here on the left, and up on the northeast of that is the cargo. Right now we just have medium airline stands because we're a small town, and in the future I think we'll probably expand this. This isn't necessarily how it's all going to lay out in the future, but the front facade of the airport is set, the runways are set, and it's functioning really nicely. You may have noticed this giant waterfall behind the airport, and this is what I meant earlier when I said we've made some significant changes to the map. This was not here before, and it was kind of tricky to do. I kind of wish I would have captured video while I was building it so I could show you guys how I did it, but maybe we'll try and recreate it in the future so I can give you guys all a good idea on how you can build something like this for yourself. Basically, we used some fresh water outlets at the top of the mountain and then made a big peak like the caldera of a volcano or something like that, and it flows down into a canal that we dug out with the terrain tools and flows back into our main river. In the future, I want to put a nature reserve up here and really go at it with the terrain tools to put some layered paths like similar to a switchback or something in there and make a really neat, unique build. So that's something I'm extremely excited for. And that's about where we are with Piney Pass at the moment. I'm really itching to continue building on this city, but I'm not going to until this video's had a little bit of chance to reach an audience and see if anybody has any suggestions and wants to participate in some fashion in the build of this city by giving us suggestions and just building a community around this channel. On that front, I have went ahead and set up a Patreon for this channel, although I'm by no means expecting people to jump out to support me. I'm doing this because it's fun and it's a passion of mine, but there's a couple of DLCs I haven't grabbed yet. My PS5 is actually broken and I have to stream it because the HDMI port doesn't work, so there's a number of things not great about my setup. I think that it would be cool to develop this channel into something a little more professional if people like it, and Patreon support may help us to that end. So the Patreon URL is patreon.com/AnthonyPlaysCities. Check that out if you'd like to. In the meantime, let me know what you think of Piney Pass, any suggestions you have for names of things, any suggestions for what to build moving forward here, and definitely share your cities with me if you want to. I love seeing what other people do with this game. Thank you.